Hello everyone. Today, we from Group 10 are going to talk about the Indian telecom sector. To begin with, I, Ojasvi, will talk about the history of Indian telecom industry. After India got independence in 1947, four companies operating telephone services were nationalized to form Telephone, Telegraph, and Post, which was under Government of India, Ministry of Communications as a monopoly segment. 1990s saw the telecom industry sector dominated by the Department of Telecommunications (DoT), which was a sole service provider. The first whiff of reform came about in 1994 when the sector began in transition from a monopoly to a competitive structure. The new economic policy adopted by the government aimed at improving India's competitiveness in the global market and rapid growth of exports. By 1999, a new telecom policy, NTP 99, was formed, under which many anomalies of previous policy were abolished or restrictions were laid off, which allow the migrations of licenses from a fixed license fee regime to a revenue arrangement scheme. FDI was also raised to 74% from 49%. In 2003, Unified Access Service Licensing UASL regime was introduced by DoT, which permitted an access service provider to offer both fixed or mobile services under the same license using any technology. By 2005, the number of private players saw a rise in the number, and the barriers on the use of technology were also lifted. And it was a genesis of highly competitive market till 2014. After the entry of Reliance Jio in 2016 via its mass outreach strategy, it reached the same level in 18 months what Airtel achieved in 18 years. Next slide, please. Now we'll look at the industry analysis via the Porter's five forces model. India is currently the world's second largest telecommunications market, having a subscriber base of around 1.2 billion. The wireless market comprises 98.1% of the total subscriber base. Tariff reduction and deadline in handset costs has helped this segment to scale. It has also gained dominance by making itself available in rural areas where the tele density is far lower. Continuous innovation in mobile segment via improvement in end user devices like the advent of smartphones, etc. There is continuous innovation in new wireless technologies on one hand like 3G, 4G, 5G, and Wi-Fi, WiMAX, and etc. And on the another hand, development of mobile-based software apps and websites which are providing various services to people by use of data communication or wireless media. The subscriber base is also widening on account of increasing mobile network coverage and competition-induced tariff reductions. Foreign direct investments in the telecom sector has been raised to 100% from 74% in the recent years. The government has also proposed a joint task force between Ministry of New Renewable Energy and Department of Telecommunications to promote green technology in the sector. Now, if we look at the supply and demand, the supply of the services has been low in rural and semi-urban areas, whereas the demand has been high given the low tariff environment. Barriers to entries are high due to complex regulations, high capital investments, licensing fees, and continuously evolving technology. The bargaining power of the suppliers have been low, as many telecom companies have gone for backward integration, that is, in-house manufacturing mobile handsets or have collaborations. However, software providers may have a higher bargaining power. Bargaining power of consumers is high due to a wide variety of choices available and poor product or service differentiation. Switching cost is also low. Competition in this specific sector has been high and companies are forced to operate with lower prices due to intense competition. This tends to drive the profitability down. The telecom sector has provided investors healthy returns in certain time periods during the past decade, but overall, the performance of the sector has been underwhelming with intense competition within the sector, resulting in low return on equity. However, lately, with telecom companies increasing capital expenditure and investing in their networks, prospects of telecom companies are expected to improve. Now, Saloni will take over.
Thank you, Ojasvi. Now let's look forward to the pestle analysis of the Indian telecom industry. Talking about the political analysis, the Indian government puts more focus on ease of doing business in the country because it encourages foreign direct investment. FDI plays a key role in shaping the telecom sector. However, as mergers increase, especially as they did in the previous financial year, there was a fall in FDI inflow because of the reduction of the number of telecom companies. The National Digital Communication Policy (NDCP) of 2018, which was introduced by the Government of India, establishes resilient, secure, and affordable digital communication services and infrastructure. Thus, it empowers our society and economy. The policy aims to provide broadband for all, create additional 4 million jobs in the digital communication sector, and increase the contribution of this sector by 8% towards India's GDP by 2022. Coming to the economic analysis, GST is 18% for the telecom services. The operational expenditures are also quite high, which affects the overall price per plan offered to the customers. Also, it's expensive to build towers and resources in the rural areas. Hence, customers living in small cities are affected the most, and this has a huge cascading effect on the telecommunications sector. Due to the technological revolution and high competition in the telecom industry, the productivity of telecommunications sector has emerged out to be higher than the other sectors. The industry has even taken up to 7% of growth from the last decade, proving to be one of the fastest moving sectors in the Indian economy. The Telecom Regulatory Authority of India has targeted the lowering of import of telecom equipment to the level of net zero by 2022 for the indigenous manufacturing of telecommunication equipment. Players like Reliance Jio have brought a lot of transformation associated with the sector and are capable of making huge contribution in the Indian economy. Social analysis. Telecommunications can promote access to education not only in big cities alone, but also in small towns and villages by leveraging the increasing penetration of mobile value added services and mobile phones. Thus, there is a significant progress which can be produced towards attaining 100% literacy. Also, telecom development and other associated techniques contribute enhanced results of quality and have vast scopes, such as the development in the field of telemedicine and telehealth. These social factors have ample opportunities. However, they are yet to reach the rural areas because it is difficult and expensive to expand in these regions. With this, customers are left with less than a handful of options when it comes to buying internet and mobile. Now, coming to the technological analysis, telecom industry is capital intensive. In India, the licensed operators and equipment manufacturers are under pressure because today's technology is uncertain. As soon as technology changes, the revenue of the firm declines. Thus, telecom sector is in need to constantly upgrade itself to meet the technological advancements. Secondly, the government of India has taken several steps, such as Smart City Project, Make in India, payment banks, etc., towards the technological development in the country. The telecommunications industry is therefore on the verge of technological revolution and digital transformation to offer its customers a wide range of services. The solution to this problem is to embrace artificial intelligence and machine learning to the core, which, however, accompanies huge operational and setup costs. Environmental analysis. Achieving business sustainability is dependent on how the companies address the ecological requirements. One aspect is that climate changes and global warming can affect how telecommunication products reach their customers. Taking initiatives for the green economy by telecom sector, like the use of biodiesel, fuel cells, and photovoltaic panels to fulfill the energy requirement for the companies will decrease the the greenhouse gas emission and reduce the operating costs, ultimately benefiting the customers. Last but not the least is the legal analysis. All companies fall under the umbrella of the Indian legislation governing the telecom sector, and hence they must comply with the regulations that the technology firms maintain in the country. Some of the issues oriented with telecom sector include the data security and privacy, intellectual property rights, and the conflict of supremacy of right over the government and the Department of Telecommunications for all matters pertaining to the telecom sector. As privacy infringement is quite common in the telecom sector, a major issue associated with the companies is that of data protection and security, which is essential for safeguarding the privacy of the customers. Now, my colleague Akhil will take over from here.
Thank you, Saloni. Now I'll be explaining key success factors of telecom industry. And first of these is ARPU. ARPU, that is average return per user, is a key success factor in telecom industry because it tells the story of how much a company is making for each person using its service. This is a particularly valuable KPI for telecom industry analytics because these companies generally have an extremely high user base. This is calculated by dividing the total revenue for a period by the average number of users. The ability to maximize profits and minimize cost associated with servicing each end user is key to these companies. The higher the average revenue, the better for the company. Next in line is subscriber acquisition cost. Although it seems pretty straightforward, but this is an extremely difficult metric to accurately measure and important factor to measure key success factors of telecom industry. Subscriber acquisition cost has many layers. It includes the money spent on marketing and advertising, but those are not the only costs involved with gaining new subscribers. It also includes the commission cost to the people selling the product as well as the cost involved with onboarding customers. And that's why it is very important to keep a tab on SAC. Next is churn rate. Churn rate is a metric that measures the number of subscribers who leave and is often reported quarterly or annually. This term is given to user turnover for industries relying on subscribers, and obviously, this impacts the telecom too. There are a few reasons why it is important to keep a close eye on churn in a telecom business. Churn can be symptomatic of greater issues within a company's product. If business is offering something that provides customer with value, there is no inherent reason for them to cancel their service. If customers are constantly leaving, then there arises a need to be continually signing up the new ones, or else finding other ways to make up for the lost revenue. Failure to meet these conditions can be disastrous for a telecom company. Next is network operating cost. It is absolute necessary for telecom companies to keep tab on network operating cost, because this is the thing that makes it so hard for new players to break into telecom industry, as establishing a new network requires a ton of investment. If costs are running too high in proportion to return per user, something that will be then something needs to be changed to maintain a healthy business, as network operating cost in a telecom business is the most important hard asset. Next is subscriber growth. A telecom company's future revenue growth has much to do with its ability to grow its customer base and add new subscribers. Subscriber growth is therefore an extremely important metric for a critical success. A steady subscriber growth rate indicates a competitive telecom industry that is keeping up with the technology trends, thereby keeping customers happy and attracting new customers. Next is the bottom line. While individual stocks in the telecom sectors can be volatile and exhibit price fluctuation, the sector has exhibit long-term stability and growth, and hence this is also a critical factor for the telecom industry.
1986, Bharti Telecom Limited was incorporated and became a first Indian company to offer push-button telephones. In early 19s, Bharti started making fax machine, cordless phones, and other telecom gear. In 1992, Sunil Mittal, the founder of Bharti Enterprise, won a bid to set up a cellular network in Delhi. And in 1995, Bharti Cellular Limited was formed to offer cellular service under the brand name Airtel and launched its services in Delhi. In 1999, Bharti Enterprise acquired JT Holdings and extended its cellular operation in Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh. In 2000, the Bharti acquired Skycell Communication in Chennai and Spicecell in Calcutta. In 2002, Bharti Enterprise came up with an IPO and got itself listed on both NSE and BSE. By 2004, it had a complete national footprint in all 23 telecom circles. In 2008, Airtel launched D2H services after a rapid expansion in India. In June 2010, Bharti started expanding in African continent and acquired the African business of Zion Telecom for a record $10.7 billion, making it the largest ever acquisition by any Indian telecom firm. By the end of 2010, Airtel had its presence in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Africa. In 2011, Airtel started offering 3G services in India, and it became the first operator to launch 4G services in 2013 in India. In 2015, Airtel launched its much awaited project, Project Leap, with an investment of $60,000 to build a future ready network. By 2017, Airtel doubled its overall transmission capacity and increased the mobile backhaul capacity by 8 times to roll out high speed broadband network with 4G and 3G coverage in all 23 telecom circles. Due to the fierce competition with other telecom operators, the quarter four saw a 72% drop in consolidated net income for Airtel, and it started losing its customer to the competitors. As a result of which, its average revenue per user also reduced significantly. But in year 2020, the pandemic pushed the users to use more data, and Airtel recorded a sequential growth of 14.4 million in 4G data customers during the July and September quarter of 2020, and its average revenue per user also started to increase. So, in the existing market, the company is transforming itself into a digital service provider, and the company is going for market consolidation. The various strategies of Airtel for the growth can be summarized as market consolidation and penetration. It acquires the competitors for such as Telenor India, Ticona, and Tata Services Limited, and it started offering enhanced and new product services. Products such as Airtel TV, digital TV series, and telemedia services were launched. Airtel also launched new products like Airtel Payments Bank and Wink music platforms. And it's also started making strategic partnership with other operators. And in the existing market development, it is working on eShakti, a digital literacy initiative, And it's also providing rural areas with much more digital access in order to tap the untapped rural market. Now, Sudeep will carry forward for the Geo.
So thank you, Shishant. And so I'll just walk you through regarding all the strategies that Geo incorporated. And I'll be also briefing you about the market research that we conducted, which is a secondary market research. So before diving in, so I'll just describe what is Geo and how it started out. The inception of Geo was in back in 2005 when Reliance Industries Limited split the company and was known as Infotel Broadband previously. And later on, it came out in 2016 with this disruptive entry. What they did was basically they reduced its price to almost a zero value, and one could avail all the services of Geo. That was free, a free unlimited calls, and you could get the data for a very low amount of price. And in telecom sector, one important criteria that we need to look at is known as ARPU, which is average revenue per unit. So before the entrance of Geo, our standard ARPU was at 150 rupees, and after Geo entered the market, it had a strategy to enter as more of sort of monopoly power. With its monopoly power, it wanted to shut down all the other telecoms service providers that were there in the industry, like Vodafone, Idea, and others. So how Geo started out, it only went out with a data-centric model, and later on it shifted towards the app-centric model, which was around 2018. And this is something that we can clearly notice that there are a lot of apps that is owned by Geo. Like we have Savan, Geo Music, and a lot of services they have been providing, like Geo FiberNet lately. So this is how they have been expanding out the business, and they have been tying up with other bigger brands like and Amazon, Sony, and Alt Balaji. So in 2020, Reliance Jio received a huge amounts of investment from 13 major firms, including firms like Google, Facebook, and Qualcomm, and they raised over a total amount of $15.2 billion, and that was really huge, and that's a clear signal that it's turning into complete monopoly. And a few of the other things that we'll be discussing over here are the growth hacking strategy that was followed by Geo. Like what the model that they followed was AARRR, which was acquisition, activation, retention, referral, and revenue. So I'll be explaining how all of them they have worked. So the first one is customer acquisition. Geo offered free services to its customer in the beginning, bundled with a variety of services, which allowed for on-demand streaming of movies, TV, and music. The lucrative offer induced potential customers and a population starving for cheaper tariffs to switch to Geo. Then second was easy activation. Most of the people could activate the SIMs right walking to the nearest KYC centers. And then was customer retention. So how they basically try to retain all the customers that they had. So to make sure that the early acquisition stayed with the provider, they came up with Prime memberships, where though it was no longer free, the prices were extremely competitive, if not better. Then was the referral marketing. Unlike its competitor, Geo did not invest in big money in advertisement. It relied on word of mouth and referral marketing. And last but not the least was the superior technology that they implemented. This is where product development comes into the picture. While all other network providers were busy covering up investment in older spectrums and differentiated pricing for voice and data, Geo had VoLTE LTE with the capability of handling voice calls with the help of data. Geo killed the two stones with one bird over here: investment in voice technology and tapping the talent potential of internet data over voice and messages. So in this part, we'll be describing about the sentimental analysis that we performed, which is a secondary market research. What we did was we scraped off all the tweets from the Twitter that had the hashtag Geo and Airtel, and we tried to analyze them that which one performed well in two time phases, that was pre-COVID and post-COVID. So pre-COVID was January to February, and the post-COVID was from February to March ending. On that basis, we can clearly see that there was a positive sentiment in Reliance Jio. The major reason was that they were like very big, huge investors who were investing into Jio, and we had given a breakdown of all the major firms that have invested, and you can clearly see Facebook has almost bought around 10% of its stake, and other firms like Qualcomm, which are global leaders in the tech firms, have they invested in it. And here on, Nitya will be taking on.
Thank you, Sudhir. So, if the telecom companies want to save their place in the center of this new evolving ecosystem, they'll have to adapt to a multiple of new trends. So, I'll be explaining you all those trends. So, the first trend is that AI is reduces costs and increases customer satisfaction. Now, AI is becoming increasingly important for providing high quality network, and high quality networks will lead to more stability, less downtime, and higher network speeds, eventually decreasing operating costs and increasing the customer satisfaction. AI can also be applied to personalizing the customer experience. Furthermore, customer satisfaction can be kept at a high level by replacing human labor in customer care centers. In the end, the gradual implementation of AI into operations of telecom companies will lead to more efficient operations, lower labor costs, and ultimately higher revenues. Second, the new opportunities emerge by connecting the Internet of Things. Now, in addition to the AI technology, telecom companies are in a strong position to profit from the emergence of Internet of Things. At first, the opportunity lies with the development of end-to-end that are tailored to specific industries. Another opportunity is the provision of data analytics services. And to thrive in this new IoT era, telecom companies need to first assess their existing competitive strengths and then develop into the existing industry-specific solutions. Now, the main problem, according to a study conducted by Essential, is that not more than 10% of the existing platforms will eventually succeed. The remaining 90% will ultimately be shut down, consolidated, and thus it will become even a deep grave for capital and time. Next slide, please. The third trend is the introduction of 5G to the world requires a big investment. Now, the advent of fifth generation of wireless technology will be crucial to cope up with the data that comes with the Internet of Things. However, rolling out this new technology at a scale will be economically challenging project and involves huge expenditure, that is the capex. Now, a possibility is the fixed wireless access, which provides the high-speed internet access to households in rural areas where fiber lines are not economically feasible. It needs to be shown that if in times of declining ARPU and increasing capex, those new revenue streams will be worth the underlying investment needed to upgrade from 4G to 5G. Thus, the ROI is still uncertain. The fourth trend is that the eSIM threatens telecom companies' relationship with the end customers. Now, with the arrival of the embedded SIM, that is the eSIM, the telecom companies are at a risk of losing their relationship with the end customers. Hardware manufacturers like Apple and Samsung, they'll be responsible for integrating the eSIM into the mobile devices. In future, the balance of power will shift to the hardware manufacturers. And the subsequent offering of this bandwidth would lead to significant revenue losses for traditional telecom companies. Next slide, please. Now, the summary of what should actually be done. Now, while the telecommunication companies held monopoly positions like in the past, they now have to fight the commoditization of data transmission bandwidth and the increasing expenditure for infrastructure investments. They'll have to deal with multitude of new emerging technologies, exploring new business cases that will eventually have to translate into the new revenue streams. To thrive in the future, they'll have to capitalize on their existing expertise and experience, their large customer base, and a strong brand name. Furthermore, the telcos will need to offer additional digital services to retain their relationship with the end customers while undergoing necessary the weight loss programs to be more agile. Thank you.